So yeah, what we're going to talk about today, we have a topic to talk about, and it's a framework for solving coding challenges.
Yeah. And I think that when we see learning to code is one step to getting a job as a developer, the second job is to figure out, like, how do I get past the technical interview? And a lot of students struggle with that. A lot of people, self-learners, university, bootcamp grads, they all struggle in this area. And we see a common response to it. And so we thought we would, what we try to train our students to do and follow this mechanism. So we've built a course that'll help you solve the 10 most common things. Now, here's the good hope, is that we see these things come in cycles. So some of the ones that we presented in this, you absolutely will probably see in a technical challenge. Right. I do know that there's several platforms out there that ask these very questions. And I do know that there are hiring managers that are asking these variant questions, and they've been asked to our students and other students. And so now you may not see the exact one, but they come in flavors.
Yeah.
And so this covers all the flavors.
Exactly. So we've picked 10 that kind of covers the most common ones. And we'll talk about this specific 10, and I'll show you the course in a minute. If you just want to jump to the course part, you can. The link's in the description below, but we'll talk about the course part in a second. But what we kind of wanted to say was we wanted to give you like the framework part of it. So the part that no matter what question it is, we kind of have these, or what challenge it is, we kind of have this framework that we work with students that says, hey, here's how you need to just apply this thing, and you'll be able to get to the answer, regardless of what the challenge is. That's what we want to talk about.
And the thing we're seeing is, like, whiteboarding has kind of gone out of favor because a lot of people complained about it. And so now you're seeing more take-home challenges or code this up in a Zoom meeting type challenge versus whiteboard, which I think is the most unfair of all of them, just because you don't have the IDE. It's unnatural to code with a dry erase board and a marker. It's just not something you do every day, especially for junior devs. They've never done that before. So this will help you with all of those, and so that you can start looking and uncovering what the algorithms are. So let's go through our framework, which we think you do, and then we'll walk you through one of the problems, maybe like this part of it. So the first thing is read the problem description. I have seen people really not do this part. Did you read it?
Just kind of skip it. They skim it.
I don't even remember what it was. I just couldn't do it. Well, did you read the problem? No. All right. So I would say what would add to this is also write down the problem description too, is the other thing you can do. So bring a notebook, write it down. Because if you bomb this, then you can go back and solve it later. So the primary question is, you need to ask yourself, okay, I've read the description. What am I trying to do? What's the result of this? What am I trying to do? And this is a common debugging technique anyways. What is this thing supposed to do? Instead of looking at the problem or, the syntax error, what am I trying to accomplish here? What am I trying to do? You
have to try and understand it, don't you? You have to comprehend it, not just read it.
Yeah.
You've got to try and comprehend it.
Right. And so one, asking yourself what to do, and number 5, when we get to that, they kind of go hand in hand. So determine, the second thing is, after you've read the description, determine what the inputs are. So what things are being passed to me that I have to do something with? What are the inputs?
What are they giving you?
Typically that's a string, an integer, could be an array, could be an objects, or it could be an array of objects. Typically they're going to come in those ranges. So determine what your inputs are. And then what do I have to produce? What is the output of it? And typically you're writing on what I would call the simplified coding challenges, a function that performs something and then returns the result. And then you have to either display that in the console or write it to an HTML page or something like that. So the fourth thing is, and people are afraid to do this, is ask a clarifying question. In other words, do you understand all the terms used in the problem? I.e., if they say, hey, check to see if a string's a palindrome, and you have no idea what a palindrome is, you
I would say, even if you think you know, why not just clarify it? Just clarify your understanding. Just be my understanding of a palindrome is, and then, okay, that's great. Because it shows you're even thinking about that question. You're thinking about, do I understand the entire problem? You're vocalizing that. I think that's a great thing. Even if you know it, it's a good tip.
Yeah, one of the things I saw was a take-home test, and ours didn't cover this. This was more like for a senior architect level position. They had to write like parts of chess. And so
Right.
this guy failed it miserably because he'd never played chess before.
Didn't understand the rules of chess. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to like ask clarifying questions. And just because, and I would put this out to hiring managers, just because you know what this term means because you use it every day, doesn't mean that that is common knowledge. You know, it's not common knowledge. The other thing that I see a lot of people is that from hiring managers, when they ask the question, they've solved this thing 10,000 times. You know, like, and you got to understand that this is the first time someone's seen it. So like I saw one the other day was like, can you write a type ahead search function? You know, you type ahead and it brings back results. You know, and you know, they're asking this to a junior dev. I'm like, wow, that one was like, it's scared. Thinking about it, like, okay, I would implement type ahead JS and be done with it. You know,
right?
Or Bloodhound. Yeah, like, you know, I wouldn't write it on my own. Number one. Right. So, but like, because what I imagine where that question comes from is they had to do that last week.
Right.
And they're like, oh, that'd be a great interview question. No, it's not. I mean, like that problem isn't solved a lot. So these problems are in around algorithms that can be figured out and not something that's so domain specific. Now, hopefully if you get a type ahead or a domain specific problem, they give you a day or two to do this and you turn it around, you have time to research it. But
that's the point, isn't it? You got to research it. Yeah.
Ask clarifying questions, palindrome, anagram, you know, all these kind of things that you're going to see in hours that, you know, there are some clarifying questions that you may need to understand. Yep. All right. Here's the fifth one that's hard to do for a lot of people. They try to jump directly to code and how to do this.
Yep.
And you need to stop this. So when I say list the steps to solve the problem, write pseudocode, what I mean is do the thing manually. How would you do this manually? Like what would you do if you had to write this down on a piece of paper and solve this manually? What
if it was in just plain English, right? Or whatever your native language is, just spell it out what you're exactly going to do.
What are you going to do if you had to solve this without code? Like, you know, there is no code. Like,
because that literally gives you the steps, doesn't it? And it breaks your problem down into smaller problems.
Right. And then once you say, okay, I know that I need to do X. I don't know how to do that in JavaScript necessarily. And then you can start focusing on that particular thing with code. But you need to know that, you know, for example, if they say check a palindrome is a reverse a string, and then check if the reverse string is equal to the string passed in.
Right.
Okay. So you'd write down the steps down. One of those steps is reverse a string. How would you do that? Well, I would take the last letter and I'd put it in the front, and I'd take the next one, you know, and I would write that down and say, okay, that's reversed. Are those equal? And so you do it manually, and then you can figure out, oh, that's a for loop.
Right.
Okay, I think I know how to do this now. And so that's what you have to do. And this is a practiced thing that you want to do. So then you start writing code. So here's our challenge to you. We give you a course, and we're giving you a GitHub repo, and we're giving you a video that shows a solve. Before you go straight to the video, try to see if you can just do it.
Right.
If you fail, that's okay. Fail now before you go to the interview. Fail now before you go to the interview, and then come back and see if your solution lines up with ours. Now, I will tell you this: we did them exactly one way. There's multiple ways to solve a lot of these things, and we didn't go through the effort of saying, "Here's the 20 ways you can reverse a string." You know, like we're just doing it one way, man.
Yep.
You know, we're not doing it all kinds of ways. So, like, if you're tempted to leave a comment like, hey, Bobby, you could have done it this way and that way. Or like, we know. But we didn't want to make an hour-long video about the multiple ways to do palindrome checker. You know, like
that's boring. You can Google that.
Yeah, you can do that if you want to do that. And now if you want to show me that you could do it in one line, great. Okay. What I really want you to do is be able to reproduce that result in an interview. You don't have to prove it to me. I want you to prove it to a boss, get paid, get a paycheck. That's what I want. And then you come back and you say, I got a job. And then I'm like, double thumbs up, you know, like, and, you know, I took your advice. I made it a one-liner, and awesome. That's what we want you to do. But we're showing you the probably the most obvious way to do a lot of them. We're not trying to be fancy in any way, shape, or form. You know, and our JavaScript is written with ES5 syntax. It's not ES6 syntax. So because we feel like that adds another layer of just crypticness to things. So we're using basic functions and things like that. So It's about the algorithm. You got to understand, it's about the algorithm. Could you write this on a whiteboard? Could you produce this in a 20-minute Zoom call? You know, like that kind of stuff. And that's what you need to get to. So I think that's our methodology. So let's go through one of them.
Yeah.
Let's read a word and show you how this would work in real life. So this is like number one, the very first one you'll see, the longest word. It says, given an array of Marvel heroes, write a function that accepts the array of names, strings. The function should return a hero with the longest name. So right away, we can determine from that, our reading comprehension, you know, what you've done in grade school, is what are the inputs? What are the things they're going to give me? Okay, they're going to give you this array of heroes, all right?
Yep.
Okay, and then you got to write a function that accepts the array. Okay, that's a function with a parameter. Right. And then the return, the output, is the one with the longest name, which is a string. So that's our inputs and our outputs.
Right.
Now, questions you may have. Hey, do I have to worry about empty or null arrays? So what if you give me a null array of heroes? Do I have to return an error? Do I have to do error handling?
And this is kind of a common thing, right? This is kind of like in all of these, you kind of have to think about this. This kind of like, what if it's null or empty?
Yeah, say no, we're going to give you something. So, you know, that's your function doesn't have to worry about that. That would be, in general, in programming, a lot of times that would be handled up front before the function's called. You typically, your function may not have to handle those things, or it may have to. So they would tell you yes or no. Yep. And then what if two of them are the same length? Think through common problems. What would I do? You pick the first one.
Right.
And that's their answer.
Because you've got a slightly different solution if it's show all of them, right? If they're the same.
Yeah, show one or two. It didn't say that. It said one with the longest name, not all of them. All of them.
Right, it's not exactly.
So, so that's how you would solve that. And then we could go through our steps, you know? So, hey, our first step is write a function, you know? Like, I think if you have that right there, I think it's somewhere.
I think right here, there we go.
Yeah, write down our steps. So we create a function that takes an array as a parameter. Step one, okay, so I need to write this function. I need to make a variable that holds the longest string, okay? You can see how detailed I'm getting in this. And then I need to make a loop over the array and check if the current string is larger than the longest string that I currently have. And then if the current string is larger, set the variable holding the longest string to that, return the longest string at the end of it. That's it. So that's my steps. None of that's in JavaScript or C# or C++ or Python or anything like that. I've wrote down my steps, and now I can go 5 things that I need to do and write those 5 things, and I should be able to produce the solution at this point, you know, or at least get pretty close.
Yeah.
And if you're on a whiteboard, it doesn't even have to be compilable. The whiteboard is actually the easier one. It's harder to do in some respects and easier in some respects. In other words, like if you know how to do it, it's pretty easy because it doesn't have to compile. You can't compile a whiteboard, you know. You know, they're not checking, oh, that's not ES6 syntax up there on your whiteboard there, Kevin. You know, like it can't work here.
That's not going to work. You're like, yeah, it is. How do you know it's not?
Yeah, they're not checking for semicolons or missing braces. They're just looking to see if you can solve it in logic. Now, if you have to take it home, obviously it's got to work.
Right.
So the thing that we're giving you, I think that's really cool about this is we're giving you a, oh, you know what we didn't tell them, Kevin? How much is this course?
Oh, it's free.
It's free.
Just throwing this away.
This is a free course, so we're not trying to sell you anything right here. We want you to go out and get a job. It is absolutely 100% free. There's no really strings attached or anything like that. Go get a free account and run through all 10 of these if you're looking for a job.
I put the link in the description below too. So
it's free.
If you don't already have a free account, it's down there. If you already have an account, whether it be a free account at learn.co Foundry or a paid account, everybody has it in their everybody has it in their library. So if you go up to your library up here, if you're in the course, you will see it right here. If you have a free account, you'll have the Coding Challenges, JavaScript, and the Netlify for free courses.
Yeah. So and we're going to continue to add more value there for the free account people.
So yeah, you want to explain to me why challenge number 2 is difficult and why it's longer than the rest?
Well, the reason it's longer and it is more difficult than the rest is because I've seen that recently.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and we watch people, they go through the course and then they drop off at the end. And
they never get to the 10th challenge.
Yeah. So even though it's harder, it may be more common right now because these things go in cycles and people start asking the same question over and over again from different companies. And you're just like, okay, everyone's asking balanced brackets now. So I want you to solve that one early in the process in case you're interviewing and you get it.
Right. So I wanted to make sure that one was up front. But we did put a little note in the course too around like if it's too difficult, like watch through it. If it feels too difficult, come back to it.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can skip past it because the next one feels really simplified compared to this one.
Yeah.
This one feels kind of complex. This one feels way easier. So get a win and then come back if you need to. But we wanted to put this one up front because it's, again, we've seen it a lot recently.
Yeah.
So
now, the other thing I want to caution you about is I'm not in this course. I'm doing the teaching of it. So if you want to see how I do things, you can go in there and get it for free. I'm not teaching you JavaScript. Like I'm not teaching you how to write a for loop necessarily. I use a lot of shortcuts to make the videos kind of short. So this isn't a learn JavaScript course. This is I've already learned JavaScript and I'm interviewing for front end positions or back end positions as a junior dev, and they're handing me these coding challenges I already know about JavaScript. And so we focus in on around the algorithms itself, like how do I do this?
Right.
So
right. Just a quick brief on what's in here then. So balance brackets is one we've seen a lot. A simple like conversion.
Yeah.
In this case, kilometers to miles. We'll talk through a few different ones you might see there. An object sort.
Yep.
Anagram check. So checking if it's an anagram. Count the vowels in a word or a sentence or a phrase. The palindrome one. Everybody's familiar with that. Sum of array values.
Plus min, max, average. You know, we
max,
see
average. Yeah, there's a lot more in this one. Yeah, this one's a little bit longer, but you have one thing that covers kind of many. Searching through objects.
Yeah. And
then number 10 is also long too. Because it's a culmination of kind of all the other challenges. You want to talk through that one a little bit?
Put together. So it's finding most used word in a text, and in the text we're using is the first chapter of Alice in Wonderland, the most used word in there. So there's a lot of techniques in there that we go through of like how to really make this really work.
Right.
Now the other cool part about this course is all of our results go to a web page. We already styled the web page up for you, and so you could build all of these out, brand them out yourself, and put them on your website individually or whatever you want to do. So all the artwork is there. The only suggestion I would make is we have our branding in it. Take our branding off of it and show it to an employer. I mean, like we're giving you permission to do it. That's why we're giving it away. But don't put the CF logo out with you. Not because we don't want you to rep our brand. It's just that it doesn't put you in the strongest light. Make it look like that you did this. All right. Right. And so this is the repo here, and that you'll get it.
Yeah, you can go, and again, it's talking about you can go clone this or you can go download it.
Yeah, and I'm not showing you how to use Git. I mean, just you can take our full course if you don't know how to do that. We're hoping that you already know something about Git, you've done something about JavaScript, you're ready to interview. This is the perfect course for you. So it's really, really cool, and the price is right, man. Free. You know, I know everyone likes free, so
it's free. So yeah, go sign up for a free free account if you don't already have one. That would be great. Let's see here.
So if you got any questions, you know, you can obviously super chat us if you got a burning question. If you got questions about the course, how to solve coding challenges. If you have some coding challenges that you've had, I would love to hear them. We may make a follow-up. You know, if I find
definitely
10 or 20 more, I'll go through and make some more of these and see kind of what you're running into.
Yeah, in chat, anybody who's been through the process and had a coding challenge, let us know.
Anybody seen balance bracket before? Palindrome checker.
We've seen that a few recently, haven't we? So
Fizz Buzz, yeah.
So Lunchbox Laser says, after the pseudocode, would you suggest a flowchart, or is that redundant?
It depends on how complicated it is, but typically you're gonna have a function. So there's like a flow going in and a flow out. And it's like, you know.
Yeah, it's taking something in and it's returning something, right? That's generally most of these that we've seen. That's what they do.
They're fairly simplistic in what they're doing. A lot of times they're just asking you to write it to the console, you know, so there is no like UI. We took it one step further and built a UI around it.
Yep.
My suggestion is this though. If you say, present this to the console and you're turning it in, put a UI on it. Take our UI, use it as a template, change the logos in and out of it everywhere, make the template your own, and then when you send it back in with the complete working web page. I can promise you that moves the needle. Like I have seen people like blown away, like, wow, we didn't think anyone would like put a UI around this. That's kind of cool. I've seen that, and they get hired. So Go the extra mile. Don't leave it in the console. I just think that's just bad. What they're trying to say, don't waste time on this. But like, hey, if you want to get hired, put
exactly.
Like,
I'm not wasting time. I'm investing in myself here to try and get this job from you. I'm trying to impress you.
Especially if you've turned this into a template. It's not going to take you that long to really do it. Like
I agree. Like, even if they say like, don't bother with that. You're like, that's on you to decide whether you're going to bother with it or not. Like, it's up to you to decide. They're like, don't waste your time. Like, I don't think it is a waste of time. I think it's a perfect, good use of time. I want to get the job. I'm going to I'm going to show you how good it's going to be.
Yeah. And then just publish it in that file and let them click on the link. I mean, that's what I would do. And then just, that file's free and just publish it up there. So you show them you can publish, you can build a web page, and you can solve the challenge. It's three things you're doing there. I think it puts you in the best possible light.
Definitely. So N17 likes this. It's great advice. It's not about language or syntax, which it isn't. We chose to do it in JavaScript, by the way, just because it's the most common one that we see. But you could do this and apply this same
Python,
framework
C#
to anything. If they it doesn't matter exactly, it doesn't matter what language it's in. That's because if you notice, that's step number 6. Write the code is step number 6. The first 5 steps works the same for any language. It doesn't matter because they're all figuring out the problem. They're not.
Because you may be asked to do that in C# because you're from C# Java. You may be asked to do it in Java or Python or something else. Whatever, PHP or something like that. But we do see JavaScript quite a bit because they're typically interviewing for web jobs. You don't have to have a compiler for JavaScript. It's the easiest one to turn around and give back to people. You don't have to like clone it and build it and stuff like that. So there's no complicated build tools or anything like that for this. It makes it real easy.
Hey, there is one tip you gave in here which we didn't talk about, and that was your regex tip. Because I loved it. It was super good. You give it in one of the videos, and I was watching it, and I was like, "Oh, that is a good tip." Let's talk about that real quick because I liked it.
All right. So what did I say about regex?
No, it's good. No. Your regex tip was if you're going to be filtering something out or whatever you needed to use regex, if you're whiteboarding you would just pseudocode, insert regex here.
So one thing we all know about regex is that they seemingly are cryptic and complicated. Typically, we look them up and we don't memorize them. And I'm sure there's some regex professionals out there like I've got it all up here.
But most of us don't.
But if you're whiteboarding it, you can say. So let's say a lot of cases I'm trying to filter out spaces from a string because I want to compare the 2 strings and the space doesn't matter. So there's a lot of things that I do in there, and so I use a regex to do that. But if you can't remember the exact regex format, what I would, especially in a whiteboard, okay, we're talking about whiteboard only. If you do it in code, it has to work. But if you're on a whiteboard, I would just say like, okay, I want to remove the spaces from this string. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a replace dot, and then I'm going to put my regex to remove the spaces from the string, and right now I can't remember what that is. I would just Google that and stick it. I'd like to put it in there, because there's multiple ways to remove a space from a string, and I actually show multiple ways to do that, and for different use cases, some are better than others.
And I think for me too, that's one tip, but I think just overall, when you're pseudocoding anything, the part that they're looking for is kind of your logic skills anyway. So that's kind of how you're thinking through the problem. The syntax doesn't matter as much. So I think even if you're going to whiteboard it out, pseudocoding it out on the board, and then even if you get something wrong in the syntax part, it doesn't matter as much. It just doesn't matter as much.
It doesn't matter as much.
It's not as important because in a real world, we're not writing on a board without the help of IntelliSense, right? We use IntelliSense. They finishes half of our stuff for us.
Yeah, and we don't have the thing about running it and then throwing a debug line. I missed a semicolon there, or I'm missing a brace. I mean, but
if you can't remember syntactically how to do something, but you have a placeholder that says in pseudocode, I need to do this, but you can't quite get that part right, you kind of get credit for it. At least half credit.
Yeah, because I'm going to Google that regex instantly. I know that in 30 seconds. If you give me seconds, I can look out and move. If I need to format an email address or a U.S. phone number, man, just try to do it for international and U.S. phone numbers, and it becomes complex.
Well, but you copy and paste it for a regex because it's that thing's kind of it's massive. Why not? You don't need to write it. But it says majority of coding challenges, whiteboard, take-home test seems like cheating.
So here's the little note secret. It's different. So number one, could you phone a friend on your take-home test? Yes. Okay. Most people are not going to do that. Are you going to Google everything? Yes.
Right.
Is that okay? Yes, that's what you do at work. I mean, like, you know,
Right.
like it's a little.
But you do have to
secret,
understand it too, though. You can't just Google the entire answer and copy and paste it in.
And they ask you about it. Yeah, it's like
Definitely going to ask you about it. There's no question
Yeah,
they're going to
exactly.
ask you about it.
Yeah, so don't go like
understand
download a repo that you found for balanced brackets and go, here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, you better be able to know how to do
right,
that.
because you copied and pasted it, you didn't notice the dude's put his name in it, and it's like, like why did you add John Smith in there? Like, I don't understand. Like, oh yeah, that's my friend.
Why does it say powered by Coder Foundry at the bottom of it in the script?
Right. You're gonna get caught out doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've seen a lot more take home
Because of COVID
than whiteboard. Yeah. Exactly, because of COVID. Yeah, it's not as easy to do remotely with the whiteboard because not everybody has a
There
tool
is
to write something
some
down.
newer technologies that are coming out where they'll give you a hosted IDE of some sort, and you got to code it during a Zoom call, and they can watch what you're doing. I think that's kind of stressful. I think the take home is the most fair. If you bring, like, I can tell you right now, if I gave you a challenge refrigerator and you came back to me with the challenge and you did not write it, I would know within like 2 minutes.
Right.
I promise you I would know.
It's more like,
and I would know if you wrote it within 2 minutes. Like, I mean, I would just know. Like, so because I would ask like serious questions. I would say, number one, so what does this thing do? Tell me what it does. Okay, I get you there. What does that do right there?
Exactly. Line 7. Like, how does that work?
And
that's you're immediately going to just blank and have no idea. Or you're going to try and fake it and be like, and then you're just going to get contact. He's like, well, it doesn't actually do that, does it?
Yeah. So, like, you know.
Yeah.
How does it not replace work in JavaScript? I don't understand that. Like, what? How come I don't have to put quotes around regex? It's like, what is that? You know. So. You know,
I think the take-home test is more like the real life too, right? It's like more like the job, because what happens is your manager's going to ask you to do something, and you're going to go away. He's not going to stand over your shoulder and watch you do it. Like, you know, he's going to expect you to go away and solve it and bring it back to him with a solution. It's the same thing as a take-home test. It's the same thing. Here's another good point. I know what you're going to say to this because I love this. It's
100%. That's how I would do it. I'd write my comments down like that. Bam, 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 bam.
You literally do this. You'll see this in the course. You do this right now in the course. There's comments all over the code.
Yeah, and a lot of times I would like, if I don't have it in my brain like that, and I might go for my notes and go, okay, I need to transfer this in the comments. So I can remember what I was thinking through the logic. And then sometimes my pseudocode doesn't line up in the real world. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to change that. And I would change the comment so that I could remember what I was trying to do. So I know there's some people that say, you should never comment anything. Your code should be readable. I'm like, dude, have you ever done maintenance from another person? Like, it's be really good if there's a comment there sometimes. Like, what were we doing? You know, because sometimes you do things that look stupid. Like, it's not about understanding the code. It's about, like, why did we do it?
And in the moment, it feels right, doesn't it? In the moment, you're thinking, I'll remember that. Like, I know why. And then a year down the line, you're like, I have no idea why I did that.
Yeah. So, like, so you have a bad manager, you know, that just comes up with crazy ideas, you know, and it's like, okay, Lawrence asked me to do this. I'm doing it, even though I think it's stupid. You see comments in there all the time.
You're like, I'm leaving that as a code because he asked me to. Like, and
I apologize to most of the Lawrences in the world. So.
Oh, that's funny. I like it. Okay. Let's see. RetroRob says, "Everyone, thank you for the information. Graduated from a bootcamp over a year ago. Finally got hired as a Java dev through a training class. Awesome.
Nice.
Love it. Good job. Good job, Rob.
Good job.
Well done. Love to see those comments. Love to see those. Delroy says, how long do we get for take-home turnaround?
They're going to give you those. So, like, you know, like the one that was like, write chess. You know, it wasn't a complete chess, but like they have 4 days to do that. You know, so like, so you could do it over a weekend. Sometimes you'll get it on a Friday, and they'll say, hey, just give it back to you on Monday, so you got 3 or 4 days. Sometimes they'll say 48 hours. Sometimes they'll say 24, depending on how complex they think it is.
Yeah.
You know, those kind of things. So that could vary. I
would also say, like, try and get it done as soon as you can. Yeah. If they give you a week, that might be part of the test. They're looking for, are you going to turn it in 7 days, or are you going to turn it in 2? Like,
now, here's a mistake I've seen our CF students make, because I'm more close to the hiring process with them, seeing what they're doing. They'll get something to say, take a week to do it, and they start on a Thursday night, and they're trying to team message me. It's like, I'm panicking. What do I do? I'm like,
because it's due tomorrow.
Could you have done it on Monday? And so to be fair, if someone gets a challenge and they ask us for help, we don't really help them. We help them with the pseudocode part. Like, in other words, we'll ask them leading questions. We never code it for them. We're like, I don't have time to code everyone's coding challenge anyway. So that's why I built this course. Go look at the course. Like,
sometimes the students will ask, they'll have the challenge, and we ask them to give them to us as well. We're like, hey, because we're always interested. Like, we want to know what's happening in the market.
But we want, we'll ask you, so have you thought about this, and this? And they're like, am I thinking right? Yeah, you're on the right track. Go do that. We don't have time to code people's things up for them because they'll just get fired early in the process anyway.
Right,
if they're not qualified
right.
to do
if they're not going to, exactly. If they really can't do it.
Maybe they need to be committed to the process of learning how to do these things and how to solve them. The reason we give you 10 of these, if you try to solve them up front, you'll get more and more comfortable with getting these problems down the road.
Yep.
Now, I did say they come in flavors. And so the flavors are, and I want you to write this down if you're really doing this. The flavors come in like, do something with an array flavor, which is like sort, filter, count, grab the biggest word out of it, the longest, the max, the min. Like all of those flavors of how to manipulate an array of data is the other one. The other one is array of objects, which is a little more complex, or 2D arrays. Given this 2D array, which is an array inside of an array. So knowing how to manipulate those with sort, filter, min, max, longest, min,
right,
sum, those kind of things.
Which are all built-in functions too, right? This is not
duplicates,
super difficult stuff, really, once you get into it.
Yeah, and that's, I would say, the sorting part we're using built-in functions with JavaScript. So we're showing you how to write compare functions. So that is built in specifically to JavaScript. So how you do that in Python and C# may be a little bit different. So, But if you know, hey, I've got to sort this,
you should know how to sort.
How do you sort an array or filter an array in whatever language you're in? So then there's the what I would call the small values, or just the integer string. Do something with a string. Do something with an integer. Those aren't arrays. It's just one little primitive type that's coming in. Do something with it. So that would be palindrome checker. Counting the letters of something. Getting the most occurrence of the most letter word is another type of thing that's not necessarily an array, even though a string is an array of characters. So you'll see those kind of types and flavors. And then what you should be able to do is go, oh, this question is the sum the values in an array question. Like all that's around it, but it's the same thing as our challenge 7 or 8 or whatever that one does. Which one does that? So I think if you start recognizing the flavors of the types of questions, then you honestly can solve just about anything at that point. So
definitely. And again, just apply the same framework again. Read the problem, inputs, outputs, some pseudocode, and then code it up.
Yep.
On clarifying questions. Clarifying questions.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
This is funny. I guess the course is free due to huge NFT funds that suddenly became
that's what we funded it with our NFT funds.
Hey, we wish.
Yeah, actually, no, Kevin, we didn't fund it with NFT. We went and bought, we got matching Lambos from that NFT sale.
That's it. Yeah, we got exactly. You got the Coda license plate. I got the Foundry license plate. We're just gonna drive around together all the time. That's the NFT Lambo money. Yeah, that's definitely not true. it might buy us tacos, maybe. Like,
actually, the price of Ethereum went down when we purchased it, so we did take a loss on that.
A taco. We're getting half of one each. That's what we're doing. We're splitting a taco.
Exactly. Yeah, the sides of it, you just break it in half.
Exactly. Exactly. That's funny. Let's see. He also says it. Lost count of times I've gone back to code 6 months later. I have no idea what I was thinking when I wrote something.
Exactly. That's what I say. I see this movement of not commenting code on Twitter, and it's just
that's like an active thing.
These elitists are so crazy that I can see the guy doing it. It's like, my code's great. I'm like, man, you couldn't read it 6 months now if you had to. Because our thought process has changed. The business
That's the thing. You've learned more too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Your thought process changed. You've evolved. You've changed. You've learned more code. Like if you were rewriting it 6 months down the line, you definitely wouldn't write it the same.
No,
you wouldn't.
Exactly. Right. And then sometimes you go to code and like, man, why is there like a switch case in here with 42 things in it? Like, what are they doing? Like, why can't we make that an enum or something? You know, and you're like, because it started out with 1, and then there was 41 enhancements later, and they just kept adding to it, and now it needs to be refactored. And then you'll say, that guy's an idiot that wrote this. Like, you know, like.
And then you realize it was you. You don't even recognize your own
exactly.
code 6 months ago.
Yeah. Were you drunk when you wrote this? I'm like, I don't know. It might have been. So, like, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
That's funny.
So.
Let's see what else we got here. Ken says, currently doing the self-paced bootcamp and really loving it. Awesome. Thanks for being a subscriber there. We appreciate it. Is it feasible to get a job after the self-paced if we can code well after? Or is it more?
Yes. If you can code, you'll get a job. I mean, like, that's what we're saying. Like, believe, if you can explain the bug tracker to someone, or the blog, or Movie Pro, or even the address book, and you can explain it, then you'll get a job.
Yeah, we definitely did not put out the self-paced bootcamp as a lead for the full bootcamp at all.
No,
that is not its intention at all. It's the same content. You're just learning it in a different way. Actually, there's more content in the self-paced technically because we have a longer time to kind of talk about it. But it's the same. You build the same things. So if you can build the same things through self-paced, that's what it's about.
Now, here's what could happen when you call in a code variety, Ken, if you're trying to get in our self-paced or full-time course. We don't accept everyone. So we're not like some of the other boot camps that take any and everybody they can and sign up as many ISS as they can and play the law of large numbers and hope that they can place 20% of them so they can make money. The other ones are on their own. That's not what we're trying to do. We actually have a quiz, an interview, and some stuff that you have to pass in, and we make judgment calls where we feel like, is 12-week right for you? And then what we might say is like, hey, you know what you need to do? Go to the self-paced course and maybe reapply 3 months from now. And we've told several people that, and just see if this is right for you, because we've determined that this, you know, the 12-week thing may not be right for you at this stage of how you are. You know, like,
it's not that you can't learn to code. It's a
can't.
really, really short time frame.
Yeah,
it's the quickest way to market for it, and it's just not for everybody.
It's not. And then, like, you know, if you come in and if our class starts on Monday and you're trying to sign up for the full-time course on Friday afternoon before the weekend starts, it's like, typically means that you need to go to the self-paced course, you know. And then in the rare case, we'll let you in if you really, really have done a lot of work, pre-work ahead of time, or you have some kind of knowledge or something that shows that you might get past. So anyway, so it's not a prep. It's meant to get you a job. That's what we want.
Yep.
So
Definitely.
Hope that helps.
Just to dispel this myth, you made it to hard tacos, and
hard tacos are good.
You want team soft taco? What are you talking about? This is soft
tacos are good too. They're less messy. I know hard tacos get all over your shirt, you know.
Yeah, soft taco all day for me.
Yeah. All about I guess Mr. Taco Cat was a soft taco. He's
was he though? I don't know. Is he?
I don't know.
I don't know actually. Now I think about it, I don't know if he is or not. Hold
on. Here's what I would say. Sometimes you will get refactoring questions. Here's what I've seen. The one that I've seen lately, and I haven't did it in this course. I think we're going to put this in the later on in our JavaScript course. But like, let's say you're asked to reverse a string. Okay, so, and you know a lot about JavaScript. You might go like, okay, I'm going to split. I'm going to, join, reverse, whatever, and use built-in functions. And I might say, could you do that without a built-in function? And you're like, okay, I could write a decrementing for loop. And what I've seen lately is they'll say, could you do that without a for loop? And that would be a refactoring question. And that implies recursion. And so like, I didn't want to throw recursion into the top 10 because I don't think it's the top 10, but I think it could be in the top 15. And I think it's more of a course in of itself, like how to like solve recursion problems and like, what do you do? But like, yes, I do think you can expect in those 3 flavors there. Don't use a built-in function. Use a for loop or something like that, or use something like recursion to solve some of these problems. Could you write your own sort? Could you write your own? Those are the other things that could happen.
Yeah, I think you should definitely know the first 2 of those, period. Yeah. If you're going to use built-in functions, which go for it, because it's going to be the shortest code you're going to write. But also understand what the other solution is, like without using built-in functions.
The reason people use for loops to solve these is because typically, especially for things like given an array of character, find the most used word. And so you'll see a simple one with 10 words in it. And you're like, oh, that's easy. I can look at that and figure that out.
Right.
And I can just do that with a sort or a filter or a min, apply max or something like that with spread operator. But what you need to understand about spread operators and these JavaScript functions is they can take only so many parameters. So like, I think it's like, correct if I'm wrong, people out there, I think it's like 65,000 and something is the most one of those can take.
If you're given a book,
it won't work.
Right.
It won't work. So like it'll blow up, it'll bomb and whatever like that. And a for loop is probably a good 20 or 20% faster than some of these built-in methods. So, and so they'll ask you about, well, what if that was 1 million words coming in? What would you do? And they know that a built-in spread operator is not going to work. It's going to perform really badly. So like they would say, write a for loop.
Yep.
We did all of ours with for loops just because of that reason.
Yep.
I discussed it a little bit, but I figured if I show the most performant one first, then you reduce the attack pattern they can attack your algorithm with, so.
Right. That's one less thing they can try. Exactly.
Yeah, like, they're never going to ask you, Delroy, could you make this a lot slower? Could you make this slower?
Right.
That's a way too fast what you did there. I want to do it the slow way, so.
Right. That's funny. So just to clarify then, is Refactoring just writing your code in a cleaner way?
Yeah.
Kind of, but it's also in just a different way, isn't it? Because they may give you like you say, they may give you a guideline. While they're not going to say in a slower way, they may say you need to do it using a for loop. Can you do that? Or without built-in functions. Now, that might not be a cleaner way. It might, but they're trying to test your knowledge around something, right?
But I would say, a lot of times what I do is I'll write my pseudocode out, and when I'm really coding something, I'll go through and code it. And then I'll come back and look at it and go, okay, I could use a function there, and I could break that out, and I could do this. And that's a refactoring that I might after I get it working.
The first thing is exactly, I think that's the tip right there. The first thing is make it work.
Yeah. And
make it work, then look back at it.
Understand what I'm trying to do, understand the problem, I've got it in the code, and it's kind of working. I might say, okay, I could do this. I could do this differently. I could break this out into a function, or I could, do some different things, make it a little bit cleaner, maybe smaller, less code.
Right. Is less code always going to be better?
No.
Is that the kind of thing?
No.
Is it? It's not.
That's what we're saying. Like if you do a filter on an array.filter, you can run it. You could write your own filter in a for loop. It's faster. But if you run it on like really small data sets, it doesn't matter. The line of code is like smaller. Right. For loop is this long, but if someone hands you, and you're looking at, you work for the NSA and you're like trying to filter through something, like you may have to do it a different way, a lot more code, but it's got to be faster. So it's not always shorter.
I think that's often a common thing people kind of misinterpret is, well, my code's only 100 lines, therefore it's faster than this same thing that's 200 lines.
Not necessarily depends what you're doing.
Right, they exactly. And I think they think like, well, the file's going to be smaller because it's less lines, so therefore it must be quicker. Like it's a
well, it's going to like, they don't understand the compiler when it's going to like make it less lines anyway. It's going to be all white space, jam stuff together. Right. I also see a lot of times where they're like, you'll see things in C# or JavaScript like blah 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 dot blah 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 dot, and they're adding all this and they chain it together, and it's like this long thing.
And you're like, what does it do again?
What does it do again? Can we get that? We can use a line. We can use a carriage break here. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can put it on multiple lines.
Is that some of the pushback too then for commenting? Like people think like the comments are taking up space or something? Is that?
Yeah, they have to scroll through it and it takes up space and it's hard for them to read the code. I understand what they're saying. Honestly, I think there should be in most modern IDEs, click a button, remove all comments. Not remove them, just hide them.
Hide them, Oh, exactly.
And then your code goes like this, and you can look at it and go, let me read this. Okay. Then you could click it again, add the comment, and go, oh, okay, I see what he's trying to do now.
Right. But maybe those comments
never
never
break your concentration.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because we don't have that at all, do we? They're just in line, aren't they?
Well, if there is, I've never done it, and so if someone's going to probably tell me that's in VS Code naturally, what are you, an idiot? And I'm like, maybe.
That's this built-in notes feature in there, like.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we're just not using it.
Yeah.
N17 wants to know, do you tend to write pseudocode in an editor or with pen and paper?
I've done both, and sometimes, you know, I've done both. Sometimes I've done both. I don't know. Depends on what I feel like. I don't really have a in or out on that thing.
You don't have a go-to.
But if it's really complicated, I probably start off on a whiteboard before even pseudocode.
I've often seen you with smaller problems in the editor and bigger problems.
Yeah, just like
take externally.
Yeah. It may go to a whiteboard, and then that whiteboard comes down. Let me write down the steps now, and I think I've got that figured out. And then that gets translated into code, and I'll comment it out, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to roll now. I think I can fix this now.
Right. Okay, if anyone does have any extra questions, throw them in chat. And we will get to them.
Yeah, we got 11 minutes here.
If you're interested in the course too, the description or the link, sorry, is in the description below. You can go click on it.
It's free.
It's free. Here soon there'll be a link to the course actually down below, where we have links to the t-shirts down below here in YouTube. There's going to be a link to the course. We're part of a secret YouTube program which I can't talk about.
Exactly.
We signed an NDA. But it's going to be down there soon, so we'll have a link to the actual course down there soon too. So that's going to be kind of nice. It's going to be neat.
Buy our t-shirts while you can.
Right, because they might not be there for too much longer. Let's see. Michael wants to know if you guys heard or looked into coding with Pact.
No.
Nope,
not to research it.
Yep, I haven't either.
Sorry, Michael. I don't know everything. I try, but like...
we try. Delroy says, how about using an assert with GUI that allows evaluator to read code with or without comments?
I mean, there's some problems with assert, mainly security, those kind of things. So I don't use that a whole lot.
Explain to me what assert is.
I mean, you can like make it execute code.
Okay.
So you can pass it something and then.
Okay. So
like eval, the other one, eval does the same thing. So I think that's what he's talking about in JavaScript. So
okay.
Or maybe he's talking about how to like just look at my code, you know.
Oh, maybe. If you found something hard to grasp or found a problem hard to crack, then comment the life out of it, because there's a high probability you won't understand it when you next look at it. That's true too.
Yep. And always remember, try to do it manually when you're thinking about like break it down manually. All I'm trying to do is insert this at the end or insert this at the beginning, you know. So especially hard logic problems, think about it manually, what we're trying to do.